still chopping off my head. What's up, friends? Welcome to Mom's Dinner. My name is Susie Weinrich. Here we're helping you feel successful in your kitchen with super easy and delicious recipes. Today I'm excited to shoot this video, not because the recipe's great, but because I want to eat these right now. I've got a terrible sweet tooth right now and I cannot wait to eat these. We're making easy pecan pie bars. I have to be honest, sometimes I think that pecan pie is a little too sugary, a little too syrupy. These pecan pie bars are just right. It has a shortbread crust, and then the topping is just a little bit syrupy with the toasted pecans, and it is delicious. So stick around today. We're making easy pecan pie bars for dessert. We're gonna start by making the shortbread crust, and we're gonna do that in the food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can absolutely do this with 2 forks because you're gonna kind of mash butter into the mixture to make the crust, or you can use a pastry cutter. We're gonna start with a 1/2 cup of powdered sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. And then we're gonna add in 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Here's the tip with your flour. Flour compacts on itself when it sits in here. So I always like to give it a little whisk before I spoon and level. All right, then it's nice and aerated and you will end up with the right amount of flour. Okay, I'm gonna pulse this a couple times. If you don't have a food processor, just whisk this together. Now you need 1 cup of cold salted butter. Salted butter is the only one we recognize here at Mom's Dinner. I know for baking, a lot of people do use unsalted butter. I just don't find that it's necessary to buy unsalted butter because I even like the salt in my baking. So I generally don't buy unsalted butter. And if you're using unsalted butter for like toast, oven's preheating, it's not gonna have nearly as much flavor as a salted butter. And you want it to be cold, and just cut it into cubes, smaller pieces so that it will mix into the flour mixture. Pop the lid on and drop chunks in while we pulse. If you don't have a food processor, like I said, you can use 2 forks to kind of mash it all together until it's nice and crumbly. Or you can use a pastry cutter and cut the butter into the flour mixture. All right, you are not gonna think that this is right, but it is. It will look very crumbly and just like flour with bits of butter mixed in, and that is correct. And actually there are a few chunks in there, so I'm gonna just pulse it just a couple more times. That looks good. So it is still just powdery and crumbly. Perfect. At this point, you need a 9x13 glass baking dish. And if you plan on just cutting it and serving it straight out of this baking dish, then you want to just spray this with nonstick spray and then move on with the recipe. However, I plan to bake these completely, let them cool, take them out, cut them, and then pop some into the freezer. They will keep in the freezer for 3 to 5 months beautifully. I'm gonna line the pan with foil and let some hang over the edges of this pan so that when it comes time to take these out and cut them, I can just grab these edges and pull all the bars out at the same time. You can also do this with parchment paper. Go ahead and spray it with the nonstick spray, and then you're gonna take that shortbread mixture and pour it right in, and then you wanna press this into an even layer. I'm gonna kind of spread it first. Some people will use like a measuring cup, or you may even be able to use like a flat spatula. Might work. Let's try that. Actually, that works really good. You can get quite a bit of surface at one time. It's a nice thick shortbread crust. It makes it so that this doesn't end up overly sweet. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in a 350 oven for, I'm gonna double check so I don't tell you wrong, 350 for 15 minutes, just until it starts to get golden around the edges, and that is baking the shortbread crust. All right, it's time to make the pecan filling. So pecan, pecan, how else do people say it? I say pecan. It's gonna start with 3 eggs, and normally I crack these into a separate bowl, but since they're the first thing going in, they can go straight in. 1 cup of light corn syrup, and I'm gonna spray my measuring cup with a little bit of nonstick spray. I hope I have 1 cup. We're getting to the end of this bottle. I think I'm gonna let this bottle sit upside down while I measure some of the other ingredients. All right, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. I'm just gonna eyeball that. 1½ teaspoons of vanilla. Again, I am just going to eyeball it. 2 tablespoons heavy whipping cream. 3/4 cup light brown sugar. I think you could use a dark brown sugar here as well. I don't think that that would make a big difference. Dark brown sugar just has more molasses and has a more caramely flavor. 1/4 cup white sugar. This is not a low calorie or low sugar dessert. All right, I have just a little bit more. We got 1 cup. The nonstick spray just helps the really thick and sticky corn syrup just slide right out of there. All right, the last thing we need is 2 cups of chopped pecans. And I've got a big bag here from Costco. If you have a Costco membership, it's a great place to get pecans. Probably the best deal going. You will have to buy a lot, but during the holidays, if you're making desserts that have pecans in it, that's a great place. I'm just gonna lightly chop these pecans because I want some bigger pieces in there, especially at the top. You kind of want it to represent or resemble pecans and not just dust. Okay, that looks really good. I'm gonna set these to the side just for a second, and I'm gonna give this a whisk. Y'all, this is one of my favorite tools. I call it a flat whisk. I don't think that's what it's called. I will link it down in the description box, but it's the best whisk. When you're whisking something that's not, you know, deep, the whole whisk goes in and does the job, which is perfect. So whisk all this together until it's fully combined, and then we're gonna stir in the pecans. It is thick, so you'll have to put a little muscle behind it. I'm gonna pour in 2 cups of chopped pecans. Y'all, I'm gonna freeze some of these, but I'm definitely eating some before I pop them all in the freezer. Oh my gosh, total perfection. Ooh, the shortbread crust looks perfect. Now we're gonna take this pecan mixture and we're gonna dump it right over top and smooth it over this warm shortbread crust. Try to get the pecans kind of evenly spaced around. When the brown sugar and vanilla and pecans hit that warm shortbread, it smells so good. Now this needs to go back in the oven at 350 for another 30 minutes. Oh, these look absolutely incredible. The top is golden and bubbly, and the pecans are nice and caramelized. I can see the pecan filling, you know, that brown sugar syrup bubbling underneath the pecans. It looks perfect. However, these babies have to cool for at least 1 to 2 hours before you slice into them. So I'm gonna let these cool for a few hours. Maybe even tomorrow morning, I will take these out, cut them up, and try one. But of course, I'll do it on video. All right, I did end up waiting overnight. It just got late and I was like, we're not cutting up pecan bars tonight. So these sat overnight and they are Beautiful. I'm gonna take a sharp knife and I'm gonna run it around the edge because it will be quite sticky around the edges. And I'm actually gonna go on the outside of the foil in case some of that syrup got on the outside. Cross your fingers that this pulls out in one. Nope. There we go. You may have to kind of work it a little bit to get it to come out. Now, if you're just serving it straight out of the pan, you're not gonna have to worry about this, but I am working a couple months ahead. We're in October right now, and I want to freeze these until right before Thanksgiving. Ah! Dun, da, 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 da. We did it. We did it. So you can see the shortbread crust underneath and the pecans on top. These are pretty rich, so what we're gonna do is cut them into 24 squares, which is basically 4 by 6. First, you want a really sharp knife, and I'm gonna first do a middle cut. Then I'm gonna cut those 2 sides in half, and that'll give us the 4. Then we're gonna go 6. So I think I'm gonna cut them in half, let's see, and then make 2 cuts on either side. You definitely don't wanna use a sawing motion, you wanna use a press motion for this. Oh my gosh, la! Now you can really see the shortbread, the pecan kind of brown sugar syrup, and then all the pecans at top, and the nice crispy topping. I cannot wait to eat this. I'm gonna take a bite right now. Oh my God. If you think you don't like pecan pie, highly recommend you try these. They're perfectly salty, totally sweet, buttery, crispy, and gooey. It's everything you could possibly want. The real difference maker though is the shortbread crust. It balances out how sweet that middle layer is. So incredible. So what I'm gonna do is actually lay probably about 3/4 of these out on a rimmed baking sheet so that they're all individual. I'm gonna pop them in the freezer for a few hours and just kind of par freeze them. Then I'm gonna put them all in a Ziploc baggie that's freezer safe, pop it in the freezer until right before Thanksgiving. Then I'll take them out, thaw them at room temperature overnight, and they'll be ready to serve. Oh, so good. I really hope you give these pecan pie bars a try in your kitchen. Pecan pie bars in your kitchen, and that they help you feel like a success. Join me next week for another recipe video, and in the meantime, I hope you will watch some more of my cooking videos. Have a great week ahead.